Students, today let us begin the lesson Should Wizard Hit Mummy and explanations of the passages. In the evenings and for Saturday naps like today's, Jack told his daughter Jo a story out of his head. This custom began when she was 2, was itself now nearly 2 years old, and his head felt empty. Each new story was a slight variation of a basic tale. A small creature, usually named Roger, Roger Fish, Roger Squirrel, Roger Chipmunk, had some problem and went with it to the wise old owl. The owl told him to go to the wizard, and the wizard performed a magic spell. Spell means here magic that solved the problem, demanding in payment a number of pennies. Pennies means coins, greater than the number that Roger creature had, but in the same breath directing the animal to a place where the extra pennies could be found. Then Roger was so happy he played many games with other creatures and went home to his mother just in time to hear the train whistle that brought his daddy home from Boston. Let us have some of the meanings over here. Nap means a short sleep, especially during the day. Custom means a tradition or trend. Wizard means a man who has magical powers. Magic spell means a form of words used as a magical charm. Pennies means here a small sum of money. Explanation of the above passage is every evening and on Saturday afternoon naps, Jack used to tell his daughter a bedtime story. This habit started when Joe was 2 years old, and now that Joe was 4 years old, Jack did not have any creative ideas for stories. Most of the stories that he used to tell Joe revolved around the same plot concerning an animal named Roger. In every story, Roger used to be a different animal with some kind of a problem. Then Roger would go to this wise owl to take help, who would in turn tell him to go to the wizard. Then Roger would take his problem to the wizard, who would help him in exchange for some pennies, means money, mostly a bit more than what Roger had with him. After helping him, the wizard would ask him to go to a certain place to fetch some more pennies, and Roger would do exactly like that. Then, after paying the wizard, Roger would go back, and all the other animals would start playing with him. He would be very happy, and later he would return home just in time to wait for his father, who would be returning from Boston by train. Jack described their supper, and the story was over. Working his way through this scheme was especially fatiguing on Saturday because Joe never fell asleep in naps anymore, and knowing this made the ride seem futile. Futile means useless. The little girl, not so little anymore, the bumps her feet made under the covers were halfway down the bed, their big double bed that they let her be in for naps and when she was sick, had at last arranged herself, and from the way her fat face deep in the pillow shone in the sunlight sifting through the drawn shades, it did not seem fantastic that some magic would occur and she would take her nap like an infant of 2. Her brother Bobby was too and already asleep with his bottle. Jack asked, "Who shall the story be about today?" Roser. Jo squeezed her eyes shut and smiled to be thinking she was thinking. Her eyes opened, her mouth her mother's blue skunk. She said, firmly. A new animal. They must talk about skunks at nursery school. Having a fresh hero momentarily stirred Jack to creative enthusiasm. Dear students, let us have some of the meanings over here. Supper means an evening meal, typically a light or informal one. Fatiguing means cause someone to feel exhausted. Rite means a social custom, practice, or conventional act. Futile means pointless or useless. Shone means past participle of shine. Skunk means a small cat sized animal. Stirred means move or cause to move slightly. Now let us have the explanation of the above paragraph. Jack had now started getting tired of this daily routine because he had run out of ideas for the stories. Also, Joe didn't sleep listening to the story anymore. He had started feeling that the practice was just a waste of time and there was no point doing it. He also noticed that Jo had started growing big and that her legs now stretched halfway down the bed when she snuggled in for her story. With all the light coming in from the window over her face that was deep in the pillow, Jack knew that she won't be sleeping soon. Bobby, her baby brother, who was 2 years old, was already sleeping with his bottle in his mouth. When Jack asked Joe that who should the story be about that day, she thought for a while and replied that she wanted it to be of a skunk. Jack then thought that she must have heard about this animal in nursery school and also got enthusiastic as he had a new hero for his story. All right, he said, once upon a time in the deep dark woods there was a tiny little creature by the name of Roger Skunk, and he smelled very bad. Roger Skunk, yes, Joe said. He smelled so bad that none of the other little woodland creatures would play with him. Joe looked at him solemnly. Solemnly means very seriously. She hadn't foreseen this whenever he would go out to play. Jack continued with jest, remembering certain humiliations of his own childhood. All of the other tiny animals would cry, "Oh, oh, here comes Roger, stinky skunk," and they would run away, and Roger Skunk would stand there all alone, and two little round tears would fall from his eyes. The corners of Joe's mouth dropped down, and her lower lip bent forward as he traced with a forefinger along the side of her nose the course of one of Roger Skunk's tears. "Won't he see the owl?" she asked in a high and faintly roughened voice, sitting on the bed beside her. Jack felt the covers tug as her legs switched tensely. He was pleased with his moment. He was telling her something true, something she must know, and had no wish to hurry on. Woodland means here land covered with trees. Solemnly means with deep sincerity. Foreseen means be aware of beforehand. Just means great enthusiasm and energy. Humiliation means here make someone feel ashamed and foolish by injuring their dignity and pride. Stinky means having a strong or unpleasant smell. Tensely unable to relax because of nervousness, anxiety, or stimulation. Explanation of the above passage is, then Jack started the story. The story started with the Roger skunk living in the forest. Jack said that Roger smelled bad. None of the other animals in the forest liked to play with him. All the other animals would start running away whenever he would go out to play. At this moment, Jack was recollecting about certain humiliations that he had faced during his childhood for being foul smelling. Then Joe asked whether Roger would see the wise owl. Jack was sitting beside her and noticed that Joe was getting anxious with the story and felt pleased with it. He did not want to hurry and wanted to make the story more intense as he wanted to convey a message through it. So, dear students, the further explanations we will have in the next classes. Thank you.